a business angel investor and founder of Sebastian Schieke and Company. And today I'm talking to Karola Kassai, and she's the founder of KassaiLaw, which is a virtual law company. So we will talk about what a virtual law company actually is. She's also a lecturer on different universities, and she runs her own entrepreneurship academy. Karola, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. And you founded a virtual law company. And honestly, when I think about lawyers, I think about big offices, which cost lots of money. You go there, they have these heavy curtains and
the big
and then you have this big,
and like the
big boardrooms. And you always feel intimidated, when you enter these offices. Yeah. And today, in a world where everything goes virtual, I never came across a virtual law firm so far until I found you on LinkedIn. And I said, hey, I need to talk to Karola and ask her what this is all about. So can you tell us a little bit what you do at KassaiLaw and how does it work virtually?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much for this question, because I really can say that you are not alone with having some questions about a virtual law firm. Well, the idea is coming from very, very different angles, actually. If you allow me, I would start a little bit of a personal side of it. Is that, do you know the feeling of not fitting?
Yes, not fitting into an environment or into an industry or yes, of course.
Or to an event, if you go to a company.
I think we all have been there, we went to an event or went to a company and somehow felt, that's not my thing, huh?
Exactly. So this is what I realized after I've started to work as a lawyer or like as an associate in different big international law firms. And I had this experience of not fitting also way before that. But, when it slaps you into the face with your own profession, which you've chosen and then learned a lot and studied a lot and everything, that's a tiny bit of a more hurtful than not fitting into like a softer environment. And I noticed that I like the law itself, also like lawyering, but basically I don't like anything around it. So this was such a huge contradiction for me that I needed to dig very deep, break it down. And then I realized that, okay, just because I see things differently and think about things differently, it doesn't mean that I cannot be a lawyer. I just have to reshape what we think about lawyers, and I just have to reinvent basically the law firm experience, which is much, much more fitting to my own personality, to how I see the world, to what I see in the world, to what my vision is about the world. And that way, I'm not going to have a burnout at the age of 25, which I couldn't, unfortunately, avoid that much. But that was a good wake-up call of, okay, something needs to be changed for real. And then digging again deeper to my own take and personality, I realized that some elements of, for example, creativity or very innovative problem solving or like complex big picture thinking were missing from my everyday life as a lawyer. And another thing which I really value is independence and flexibility. So then I realized that, okay, why do I feel that I can breathe? Because I have to sit in an office from like 9 until midnight or yeah, exactly. Like no end. And I had some conflicts around not being an early bird, which means that, yes, sometimes I was late. I had no meeting at 9 a.m. So since I've never been an early bird, I didn't understand that, okay, why is this such a big problem? I can solve my tasks and I'm never late with the deadline. And I really can work very good at midnight, no problem, sharp focus, good ideas. But in the morning, it's like, please don't talk to me. So I don't necessarily know my name. Why do I have to sit there? And, there were a lot of challenges and difficulties in this sense for me throughout the road. And then when I synthesized all the experiences I had, what I like, what I don't like, what I see, what is not present, then the virtual law firm structure was an answer. And another answer was technology. So we are actually an EU-based, I like to say EU-based, and I will explain to you why later on, but EU-based borderless virtual law firm that advises the newest technologies. And with technology, the easiest example, of course, is like, for example, artificial intelligence, deepfake. I'm pretty sure we've all know these and heard about these.
And we'll know this even more in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Cyber security problems or space engineering, for example, space technology, gene editing, medtech, health tech. So these kind of technologies which we exclusively advise and work with.
Very interesting. I mean, first of all, your story. Yeah. I mean, I know so many people who are stuck. Yeah, they are stuck because they do a job which, they study, they invested lots of time in, but then they don't like the environment, or they don't like the companies to work for. They don't like the structure, but they also don't have the power to change things. So many people are victims of their circumstances. Yeah, and you are the opposite. You are the creator of your destiny. You said, okay, I love being a lawyer. I love the topic, but I don't like the environment. I don't like how it's set up, and I can completely relate. I mean, I also completely agree that, flexibility is so important in today's world.
In 2022, it's like, especially there's been a lot of studies, and not recent, like not now, for a couple of years, it's there that like one of the most important soft skill of the 21st century is critical thinking.
Exactly.
So if we train them to follow orders, by them I mean the young people, they're not going to survive 21st century.
No. I really question the system.
I can actually give you an example of what, also relating to my work to what you are saying, is that if we take the deepfake videos, which are now at the level of that we actually still can, the people working in tech, like having a little bit of an understanding of what's going on there. We can still see on the internet that, okay, this something's wrong. It might be deep fake. But in some years, really like few, 1, 2, we don't know, it's going to be there that we are not going to be able to tell. That is it a real interview or it's not a real interview? Is this happening? Is this actually happened in the world, like a bombing or like whatever,
or not?
Somebody would create to manipulate actually humanity. We won't be able to tell. And this is extremely dangerous. This is, we also need to understand what technology is capable of and how much it actually reinvents everything in the world, what we've known so far. So this is basically from the simplest daily activities to the core values of humankind are under reinvention and reshaping by technology. So if we don't adapt as to skill set, if we don't understand what this is actually about, what is this capable of, then
we're not able to survive.
Very bright future to be diplomatic, but I could be harsher in that as well. So then we don't stand a chance with singularity and all kind of issues with technology, which can arise based on the technology, the exponential technology. And then if that's what they learn at school, that you have to use the ruler for this and that.
And this is the most important thing, And I mean, I was shocked, and not only for his case, which I thought, okay, it's ridiculous, but taking this in a more broader context, seeing how these systems teach the kids. Yeah. And on the other hand, I mean, I know what's happening in the world and I know what kind of skills we need. And I talk to people like you, and these are the complete different opposites, which is very interesting. And
I had the very same experience at school, but that was decades ago, actually. And I also studied in Germany in Regensburg at a law school, or university there. So I know what you are talking about. I studied there more than 15 years ago. And back then, it was, oh, wow, what a well-equipped university with technology and everything. But then seemingly...
So you combine your lawyer knowledge with your technology focus, and you help a startup in this space. Can you share us a typical assignment? So what kind of topics you focus on? How does it look like? What challenges do the founders come to you with?
Yes, of course. I can share you some typical questions which we encounter during our work. For example, there is an artist who started to experiment with AI. There are different options to do it. The most famous, I think, is Midjourney, by which you can create pictures. And then they come to us, or like the artist comes to us and, okay, who is the copyright owner of the AI created art? Is it AI? There is, by the way, a difference. I don't want to go into the details, but in case of AI generated art, there is no answer yet. Or another question is that how can a revenue-based financing model, like a specific business model, be fit into the legal system of an EU country, a specific country I can't name? If it doesn't, then what type of financing is that? Like, how can we argument to convince the regulator that they still accept that? The country system doesn't know it. In the US, it's super popular. So this is, for example, a regulatory challenge. Or in the framework of crypto, fintech, financial technologies, for example, does a non-custodial wallet provider fall under the scope of the relevant law if they would like to provide cross-border services? And what important to see here is that these technologies are so new that there is either absolutely no law around them, or if there are some, they are mostly framework nature legal regulations. So how to interpret it, how to do it, what was meant, what could be the practice, there is nothing. So there is a framework which somebody or like the actors interpret. And it's extremely, extremely interesting, especially that technology doesn't know borders, which means that we as a virtual law firm don't know borders either. So we are doing an interdisciplinary cross-border lawyering, actually, because if you break down the problems of these new technologies, they are the same problems everywhere. Does it matter where my AI artist is? Who is she or he? Where is she sitting? Where is she created the painting or like picture? It can be a German AI artist. It's going to be the exact same question from the German AI artist than from the Swedish AI artist. So there are no borders. And this is something which lawyers don't really understand, or like not just lawyers, but basically the whole world. It's not a preconcept. It's actually a fact that law is territory-based. Yes,
but the world is...
traditionally, but it shouldn't be anymore, at least not in this area, in technology.
Completely agree. I mean, the world is so connected. I mean, I'm here in Germany, you are in Sweden. We talk to each other.
Exactly.
Use the same technology. You do business with people in different countries or different continents.
Yes.
I mean, today I read in the newspaper that we have a very strict data protection office in Germany. And for 2 years, they tested now Office 365 as a product, the Microsoft product. And today they said, this is not secure, and we cannot recommend using the software. And I just think, hey, the whole world is using these applications, I mean, it actually helps us to overcome borders, to work close together. It improves so many things. And the reason is not that they found any backholes, any issues, physical issues with the software. No, it's only because they don't know exactly what is happening with the data. And I mean, this is exactly your example, maybe explained in simple words. We have this complex world of software where the software is more and more interconnected, and you cannot really, as a single individual, understand where all these data flows are going to and what is really happening, because there's AI, there's so much happening in the background. And on the other hand, you have these very strict and sort of living in a different century lawyers and data protection officers who expect to understand every single bit. And if they can't, they say, okay, this is not secure. Yeah. And this has an impact on everyone using this product. It causes lots of challenges with companies in Germany. The school system, they can't use this. And it's very hard to believe.
That's actually very, very interesting what you just brought up. It has many, many different segments which come to my mind all of a sudden. So I try to just sum it up quickly or just name a few out of it. But first is we actually have to think about data itself. So I remember in 2012 when KassaiLaw was founded, then we had a lot of talk and discussions about data with my clients. And it was so funny because all over the world, when you think about Facebook, everybody said that, oh, yeah, sure, it's free. It's so good. Let's hope we're never going to have to pay for it. No, so much fun and so on. And then we said that, no, it's not free.
It's good, a product.
Paying with your data. And it was just like people around us is like, what? And nobody get the concept. And see, this is also something which shows that how quickly technology actually develops, that 10 years later, for everybody, it's very, very obvious that why data protection is important and so on. And partly the German approach. So it's always a very thin line what the actual role of law is.
Yeah.
Because, it shouldn't be an obstacle to progress. Because progress will never stop. So that's thesis number one. That's for sure. You cannot stop progress and innovation. But on the other hand, for example, you mentioned Microsoft, these, and I don't, especially Microsoft now, but the general concept that these huge tech giants really could do
everything. Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's the other end of the scale of what law should do, and what might be behind thought of the German Data Protection Authority is that, okay, you know what, you can't do this anymore because we don't accept it, and we don't care that the whole world's been using Office 300 or I know they have a new name now. I just I just use it, but this Office product, it's not safe. So it's also possible that it's true. So it's very, very hard to balance.
There need to be a way that is practical, which covers both sides. And I often have the feeling that it's either this or that side, which doesn't really help.
I'm sure there are more reasons to that, and I could list many reasons to that too as well for you. But there is one which I would like to emphasize is the lack of technological understanding. So these technologies are so complex, and the whole world has become so complex that we cannot think about one problem, finding a solution to it without we really don't understand the complexity of the problem. And if you think about, we already talked about no borders. So technology is global. The challenges of it are global. So the whole industry, if I run a startup, and then of course I'm not thinking about only be present in the Swedish market. That's a small market. Yeah. I want to be present in Germany, in France, in the whole EU, in the US, in China, whatever my business strategy is, of course. But nobody's going to stop at the borders just because, oh, sorry, this is already Norway. Oh, sorry, exactly. I'm going home. And that is why the regulators have huge challenges as to how to regulate these things, because they just don't understand. And them educating, and it's not their fault, of course, because it's so fast and so quick, and the legal background and legal, the whole process of policy making is definitely slower, and it's always going to be like this. So it cannot keep up with the pace of technology, but they really have to gain a very deep technological understanding. And then this is actually what we do as well. So we reshaped the whole approach of being a lawyer because we work in technology. I'm sure some approaches of ours are probably not applicable in family law, for example, or criminal law. So when I talk about the lawyers need to reinvent themselves, I'm talking about my area, so technology and innovation. But we actually gained the real technological understanding. And this means that we do know how blockchain works, for example, or what it is for that matter, or we do know what CRISPR is, or we do know what a prompt is, or like what does it mean, like pay to earn or like pay and earn nowadays in gaming, or what's the moral machine dilemma is, so like all kind of technology related understanding we know. And this is the reason we can help much, much better to startups, because since in many cases, there are no directly applicable or like obviously applicable legal regulations, we have to come up with something. Yeah. So we have to actually create legal solutions which had never existed before. And if you don't understand the technology, we might come up with something completely stupid, and no, we can't afford that. So I don't want to be that person in the room who says stupid comments in a meeting because they literally don't understand how blockchain works. So it's really uncomfortable. And this is the issue with the policy makers as well, that they have to catch up, and it's very, very hard work.
It's a challenge. I mean, even for people who are into tech, I'm into tech. I can say that I understand a lot, but there are always new things coming up, which you never heard of, think, okay, what is that? Okay. Then you have to study it. You have to do some research to really get behind.
Yes, absolutely. It's like that. And we also noticed that, okay, if you delve into like a huge project, and then, you don't have time to follow the recent news for like 2-3 weeks, it feels like you missed 2 years because it's so dynamically changing. So that's another challenge of our industry, to be able to mentally also process these extreme amount of uncertainty, extreme amount of new information, to find them in the noise, to synthesize them. It's like our nervous systems are not.
We are not made up for this.
No. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Completely not.
I remember I grew up in East Germany, and back then we had 2 TV channels. We had a few newspapers. That's it. Life was so quiet and slow. And now every day is there's so many things happening, and even you have to process everything. And this is such a different life.
It's a huge psychological challenge, and if we don't act responsibly around technology, this can become a very, very serious side effect. Because, we cannot speed evolution, we cannot speed up that much yet. We are working on, eternal life. There are extremely a lot of studies and aging. And
exactly. So but technology speeds up, no? And there's more and more information and more news, more notifications. So when I work with my clients, I recommend to them simple things like turn off notification on your mobile, because
I already did that.
A simple thing, but so many people, they get distracted every few seconds, boom, there's something coming in. Oh, there's a news alert. Oh, there's this. How can you focus, when you always have these interruptions?
Exactly. And what people need to understand there is that these things were created on purpose to be addictive.
Exactly.
So we are subject to manipulation. And since it's a really interest of companies to make money, they are always going to try to manipulate you into getting your attention. So this is at the next level. So what is after data? What do we pay with?
With our sanity, basically,
Exactly. And their attention, and then, sanity. So this is, again, pretty serious, and we need to see that, and we need to understand that, and we need to be responsible, and it need to be adults. So I a lot of times have the feeling that this whole world of technology is still in, like toddler phase.
Yes.
It started to hit people what we can actually do with the internet. Because if you think about the internet, evolution of the internet, it was for very, 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 very long, basically just a source of information. And then Internet 2.0 came with emailing and then social media and so on, which was like connecting people. And then Internet 3, so like Web 3 is now the blockchain-based technology, which we talk about, which can, again, gonna change a lot of things. But it's actually with COVID when it got clear to people that, can we use internet for other things? And so, like, can we work through
it? Actually have conversations and meetings and
yes. Yeah. And it was for me a little bit of an interesting
your dream coming true, basically. You're building up this virtual law firm, and probably before COVID, everyone was sort of looking at you saying, okay, is this serious? I mean, are they trustworthy? They're just on the internet, they don't have an office where I can go to. And
exactly. You just named some of the very early challenges, because I started this in 2012. We were remote from day one. We used cloud-based solutions from day one. We used cloud-based project management tools, so like all time management tools, all kind of applications which we communicate, track, so which we work with, because we don't need an infrastructure. And I had to tell so many times, or like I had to explain so many times of people, like to clients, like, okay, don't freak out, don't worry, because that was the by default setup, that even though obviously we didn't sit together ever, because they are doing their company in their office, and I am a lawyer working in my law firm and in my not existing office, but in my office. So sometimes we met at meetings, personal meetings, yes, but how often? Like once a month. So like we emailed, we send the stuff we email. And yet, when somehow it turned out that I'm going to be abroad, mostly in Sweden, for like 2 months now, and I'm not going to be there, they freaked out completely. It's like, okay, who's gonna do our legal things? Like who's gonna advise us? It's like me. So like,
but you're not there.
But you are not here. And like, okay, have you noticed how many times we've actually met in our lives? You see, oh yeah, true. So it was just in a preconception in mind. Just like what you said, that the lawyers have to have the huge chairs and the degree on the wall, and like the
which you all pay with your fees,
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I personally never understood that, regardless of being remote. So this doesn't talk to my personality, but that's another question of how I built up the organization. It has nothing to do with the traditional structures. But yes, with COVID, finally, people understood what the internet can be used for. So it was in that sense a big breakthrough, and got closer to understanding and a little bit of eased up the daily challenges for us. And there are still some left, but we are heading there.
But I mean, it must be very hard for you to find people for your organization if you require law knowledge and technical understanding. And I mean, this combination is, I can imagine, very rare.
That's correct. Yes.
So this is why you have your own academy to train the people in either law or tech, right?
In KassaiLaw Entrepreneurship Academy, we actually train them to become successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but I know, I was just joking.
This is actually a great idea. Thank you. To actually train lawyers to
understand tech.
These challenges. Yes, because there is another angle here, actually, is that I mentioned previously that the world has become very, very complex. Our problems and challenges, let it be climate crisis or fake news, or like, food crisis and electricity, like everything is extremely complex. And the only way, or like a way which I believe in, yes, that's the best way to put it, is that we have to come up with interdisciplinary approaches. Because if we only use one type of approach, then it's not going to be sufficient, because it's only going to see through its own lenses to a very specific angle of the problem. But that problem has a lot of different angles. And if I don't see the big picture, I won't be able to come up with a proper solution. And in that case, the solution becomes the problem, like part of the problem. Yeah. And we don't really have time for this. So like with technology winning over humanity, this is no joke anymore, actually. And there are a lot of examples in science to the interdisciplinary approach. For example, if we take cognitive science, to simplify it, it's technically a science about the brain. but it uses psychology, it uses anatomy, like doctor of kind of things like behavior, sociology, and all kind of different sciences act together. Or like the same with network science, for example, which is math and technology and again like psychology. So everything all together. And these are actually new science directions which
should be taught in universities. Yeah.
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah. And the researcher teams are also multidisciplinary in these areas. And we do actually the same with law. So we use this interdisciplinary approach, which means that not just we have to have technological understanding and the legal understanding, the legal way of thinking and breaking down a problem, but we also have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which means that these new emerging technologies and the exponential growth requires, we already mentioned it before a little bit, like completely new skills that were previously unknown or at least unexpected in the legal industry. I am myself an entrepreneur, so I can absolutely think that way since I built up KassaiLaw, which is now present in more countries and work all over the EU and so on. But other colleagues as well, they have to use a mixture of creativity, innovative problem solving, forward thinking, proactivity, speed, being very responsive, being very flexible, experimentational, because
you name it.
Otherwise we can solve the problems for the clients. And there is one thing for sure, is that the client, and I've told this to my colleagues anyway, a lot of times when we do internal trainings, we do also regular internal trainings in-house. So we try to teach this approach, of course, to the new people who join us. But one thing is for sure, the client is not gonna care that you say as a lawyer that it's not possible. The client's gonna do it anyway. Because that's why it is, they are innovators. That's why they are disruptors.
Yeah.
Because they have visions, they see a future which you don't see, or like we see, thanks God, at KassaiLaw, but like other lawyers not necessarily see. So you cannot divert the client from fulfilling their vision, So the only thing which can change there is that they're not going to do it with you.
Exactly.
They're going to go somewhere else. And this is very, very hard to find, because usually, people with this type of skill set, this is the entrepreneurial competence, basically. At the age of 18, they go to business school. And then those type of people who are attracted to frameworks and rules, like safety, we know how to act because there is the law, they go to law school.
But you created a bridge with KassaiLaw, basically. Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing. You created an own industry or subcategory of an industry.
I'm super enthusiastic about our job because we really, truly believe in what we do. Because we are also having the entrepreneurial myself. As said, I am one of them. So KassaiLaw is basically one of these innovative, disruptive companies. We reinvent law. They reinvent, fintech or whatever they work, they're like finance or space or
there are many,
tech or whatever.
Endless opportunities. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And this is also why, since we are one of them, basically, we really also can see the future which they see. We also share the vision and the mission, what they have. So, and we really care.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a client for us to, where is the contract? How many pages? Okay, this is the invoice. Thank you. But, we truly do the same what they actually do in their industry. And this caring gives actually a great additional value because we really feel their problems. We understand their struggles. We've gone through all of them ourselves. Because nobody understands what we do. Why is it? This is not the way. This is not how we do it. You are not a proper lawyer? When are you going to have a proper office to become a proper law firm? And so, those kind of
they don't care. They don't ask these questions because they live your life, basically. They have virtual companies. They live and breathe tech, and they don't want this. They feel intimidated by going to these traditional law firms. And then I remember when I worked with lawyers, when I wanted something and they pulled out some text blocks, and then charged me a fortune.
But you cannot even imagine how often I said to the colleagues, please stop copy pasting legal text to the client's email. No, don't do that. Of course, there are documents where you have to, for example, if you issue a legal opinion or like a business model validation, regulatory. So it has its place. Sorry from the word, we cannot
of course
all of that. But when we actually solve a problem, we communicate and so on. If it's not an official document of those kinds, please express yourself so that everybody understands, and then answer the questions before the client has to ask it, because business-wise, it's very obvious what's going to be the first thing he's going to think of when I read this sentence. Like, this procedure usually takes 6 months, and then, but then add, please, how much it's going to cost? Because that's going to be the first question which comes to mind. Or what other options do I have? If I don't want to go this way, what can be the outcome of that? So still one first email of answering the problem, even though the question was, for example, that, I got this notification of insolvency procedure against me, and I don't agree. That is all. And then, you have to break it down that, what's the business purpose behind it? What's the goal? What are the circumstances? What's important to the client? Or I can give you another example, which is very much startup related or entrepreneurship related. And that's around the shareholders agreement. I'm sure you know what it is about. So that's basically the core agreement which regulates the basics of a company at the formation. And it's very, very interesting that, yes, of course, there is a vesting. And yes, of course, there are ownership percentages, or there might be a non-compete, for example, or a non-solicitation, or anti-dilution clauses. But is this actually solid foundation for the funders for the future? Does it cover real life? What can happen with a startup? And well, most probably not.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
For example, I'm thinking about questions as to, so what we do in these cases is that we map out the dynamics of a certain team who come to us we have an idea, because it usually starts like that. We sit down at a coffee house and then, we have an idea. Then, sure, please tell me about your idea, and then how can it be protected? We need a company around it. We need, of course, shareholders agreement. We need investment or not. We need contracts around it. So it has a very clear workflow, actually. Again, globally the same. It's not going to be different just because I accidentally went across the border to Norway or Germany, or it doesn't matter. And we do a workshop, a preliminary workshop to them. And we ask those type of questions. So in the workshop, we need to map out and find out the business purpose and the goals actually behind it. So why do you establish this company? And the answer is never because I need the investment, and that's how they. No, that's not an answer. It's very important to find out, for example, from the founders individually. So we do it in this case that we individually anonym answers we get from every single founders to every question we raise is that how would you define the ultimate failure? Or, for example, what's your biggest concern? Or what do people say is your biggest contribution to the company, and what do you think about it? Or, for example, is there a part of the current business that you are unwilling to change?
The real challenges and the real question, as you mentioned, they are hardly asked. And
imagine, believe it or not, there hasn't been one workshop of this type, this shareholder type workshop, where it didn't come out that there are major core differences between the founders.
Yeah.
And then, why do we fail? Later on, they ask the questions 5 years later, and then, well,
no one thought about this, no? I mean, I'm using a lot of personality assessments like DISC and Motivator and critical thinking, which I run with my clients and also with teams. And there you see the differences in behavior of different people. And then you can predict that there could be a conflict in the future. There could be misunderstanding in the communication. I mean, it's not good or bad how they behave. It's just different. And we have to adapt to this, and we have to understand, first of all, ourselves. And then we have to understand the person we talk to. And there's this golden rule of communication: treat others in the way you want to be treated. But there's a different level. It's the platinum rule, says treat them in the way they want to be treated. Because, we are all different. But it's this basic understanding of our personalities is so important when you do business, when you run a team, when you develop an organization, and it's often neglected. Yeah, it's often not taken care of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. That's what I see all over Europe as well, where we have experience, and I literally don't know why. So these are like the elephants in the room. Come on. How on earth do you want to build a successful company if the ground foundations are not on the same page? And then this is why I've been keep saying all the time since I can remember that to become a successful entrepreneur, it requires a huge level of self-knowledge, because you really have to know who you are. Why do you do this? What are your strong suits, or like what are your weaknesses? Because otherwise you are just floating in some delusions and perceptions, and then reality hits in the face later on, and then maybe you wasted like 5 years and like a lot of sleepless hours and a lot of hours unpaid, because it's very hard journey. I know that, and that's again very true, but still. So this is what I mean by interdisciplinary approach, actually, that the traditional lawyer would never think of these questions, because this requires both entrepreneurial mindset and technological understanding, because then we're going to be able to connect the dots and create a successful venture together. So we work very, very closely together with our clients. We are not the executioner type of lawyers, because as you can see, what to execute here? Yeah, I'm going to execute a shareholders agreement. Yeah, sure. But I don't want to execute a shareholders agreement when I already see at the first sentence that, guys, this is not going to work out. Oh my God. So I can't stop or I can't refrain myself putting into this type of business mentoring approach as well. Because, this is not the type of lawyering where you can be a follower.
Hey, this is very, very interesting. So, we talked now for almost an hour, which is very interesting.
I know.
What are your biggest challenges looking ahead, developing your practice, and how you see yourself in a couple of years' time? Where do you see the journey going?
Yes, that's a very good question. I raise them to myself at every end of the year when I do the business planning of KassaiLaw for the upcoming one. So just now it's self-reflection time. Other than the actual challenges with which we already touched upon, for example, like finding colleagues, which is a serious challenge. So you get a very, very valid observation there. And it's also hard because sometimes we feel that we grow very fast in itself as well, because seemingly the world and the market reacts extremely well to this niche that we have been doing. And we could hire almost like every 2 months a new lawyer. But if you can find someone who has the proper skill set, because at least that's my approach to it, that, okay, you don't have to have everything in you, because that's almost not possible, but I can teach it. We can do trainings and so on. But what I really, really need is the right mindset, to be able to be like trained together, or like so that we can help you fit in and teach how we do stuff and how we raise questions, how we work together with the client, because it's a very, very dynamical, agile and experimental way, and very informal as well, as you could see, because I don't react well to formal formal things. But it doesn't mean it's not competence, of course. So I have never understood why, so at least for me, this kind of formal requirements in many, many cases, unfortunately, that's my personal experience. So I wish it would be different, but they are mostly covered to incompetence. Similar to arrogance as well. And it doesn't mean, definitely don't mean that the lawyers who work under these circumstances are incompetent. No, not at all. But it's not related to competence, these formalities. So, to the outside world. It doesn't mean that you have a better understanding of certain problems.
So it puts a barrier between you and the customer and the client, when you are too formal, too stiff, and you have this setting which is often intimidating to the clients, when they come to this big office. And
yes, definitely. And again, since we build these companies basically hand in hand because of the interdisciplinary approach, so we need to be considered, or we don't need to, but clients consider us by default like a team member. So, not an outsider, stranger who just all the time points out that nothing is possible and that's not good and that's not allowed. And it's already a frustration when I get an email from my lawyer, because I hear this on a regular basis from clients who come to us, that they have never had a nice experience before. Which they, think about as, that was nice to work together. It's always, if it was okay, then they said, the lawyer did a good job, but it was terrible, the work contact itself. So this is one challenge, to find people with the right mindset and the entrepreneurial skill set somewhere deep inside, which we can unlock together.
Yeah, develop the people. Yeah, but there needs to be basis, and willingness to grow and to develop the skills.
Yes, definitely. And another one is an ongoing challenge. So making the world understand.
Yeah. An interview like this can obviously help and show this perspective to the people and answer some question they have, and show that lawyers don't need to be very formal and in a big office, that they can be approached on the internet and can still do an amazing job.
Well, I hope so. At least that's what we strive for. But I really, really think that we work together. So we have an amazing team in the company. And we only have extremely smart people, if I may say. About the colleagues, of course. I'm not judging myself. That's not up to me to do that. Yeah. But really, really great lawyers who are able to connect the dots and so on. So even the interns can solve cases in a way that sometimes I myself was so wondering. It's wow, did she really do this? Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Of course, this leads to the skill set of Gen Z and so on, a lot of things we could still talk about for hours, but it's still a little bit of a constant fight, to make this understand that the traditional way of lawyering is not necessary anymore, and the borders broke down and
exactly
everything. And for me, it has never been an acceptable answer when I get it from back from anyone, or even from an authority, because it's also we have interesting cases when we challenge their decades-long practice, and then it's we have always done it like that. Yeah, okay, I get it, and it's most probably true, but that was not the question. So I don't care, because there is a better way to do it, or there is a more efficient way, like something you could change, and your life's gonna be easier as well.
And you better start changing now before the world is changing you. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the future outlook. This academy, which you mentioned, Entrepreneurship Academy, is actually, we started it before COVID. And then, since we believe in personal connections, and we believe in devoting our times to each other, even though it's virtual law firm. So now we're talking about the lecturing part, so like the teaching part. That's why, unfortunately, COVID stopped it. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing to share this entrepreneurial interdisciplinary knowledge which we have. We do, or like I personally do, and some of my colleagues as well, a lot of mentoring all over Europe, actually, at different incubators and accelerators, or like events, and like a lot of speaker opportunities we receive, thanks God. And for me, it's all the time so nice to share what I think, or what we've learned, or what we've experienced, where we see patterns throughout our work, because that's, first of all, life is a lifelong learning, and second of all, that's what it is about. I don't want to keep it like, I'm not protective of it. I would like to build a better
contribute. Exactly. Contributing. I mean, when you see the Maslow pyramid of needs, for example, you have the basic needs, but then on the top, you have contribution. And contribution is something, once you fulfilled your initial needs, is something very important when you want to continue to grow, when you want to feel fulfilled, that you contribute to other people, that they also grow, that they also learn and make use of your knowledge. So
I absolutely agree. And here you also touched one of my core belief systems, actually, like angles, which I all the time represent, is that as to the workspace itself, or like how work's supposed to be in the 21st century. And for me, it's about it being challenging and also make you grow, intellectually challenging, but also make you grow, and also creating social value and social impact, which we all in the company find very, very important. So like not some opportunistic, drives. That doesn't talk to us, at least. And the last thing is that it's tailored and fits to your life.
Yeah.
Because, just like you said before, we are all different in all aspects, not just from a skill set aspect, competence aspect, but life circumstances as well, of course. And I never understood this either. like why on earth does my boss would want to fit, squeeze, press, force
you in a box
into the box of I don't know who created the box. That's my usual question of my times of my 20s back then. Okay, show me the person who created this box. I want to talk to them. I have something to say there. And back then, when I built up the organization in this way, there was not. So nowadays, this personal work-life balance is a very fancy and trendy topic, of course. But back then, it was more about the burnout topic, I think, which was more popular and so on. But still,
which is still very real. I mean, I know people. Honestly, working in any kind of organization who are really struggling a lot from burnout, and it's real. It
is. I've been there. Yeah, it's very much people because we don't consider so many factors. We still have, even though COVID changed a little bit, but I've noticed the tendency of companies shifting back to the old ways after these 3 years of misery, and it's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's like, can't you mix and match? Can't you use a hybrid structure so that people can be a bit more free and it's less mentally draining? And they can, because at least for me, and I was in my 20s, I didn't have kids then and nothing, and still felt that I cannot live my own life because I'm a slave in an office building. And if the mechanics can go at come to my house to repair something at 2 p.m., I have to take a day off. Office is like, am I in a kindergarten or we are adult people here? And I seriously think that the build up of our culture is not a utopia. It's up to competent leadership, actually, to create this environment. And I always strive for creating it for my colleagues, because that's what I actually believe in. And this is another explanation or another direction from where we arrived to the fact of being a virtual law firm, is that they can actually shape it according to their own needs. And we actually work in a hybrid structure from 2012, which I had no idea about back then, that it's called hybrid, hybrid work environment. But we have one office day a week. Mm-hmm. And the rest is up to you. So you can be in Spain or in the US or in Balaton or like, doesn't
wherever
matter.
You want. Yeah.
Wherever you want, yes. But that's also part of a great work-life balance, I think. And my starting point here has always been that other than our lives are not similar, because why would they be, is that we are all mature, responsible and competent adults.
Yeah.
So I am not a kindergarten teacher there. Es ist kein Kindergarten. So it's why should I control my people?
No, I completely agree.
Why should I stand behind? It's like, oh, I saw you. You went on Facebook. It's like, oh. Seriously. So I don't get this part. And based on these principles, I built up a holacratic structure. Actually, I don't know. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
And it works very well. So it's basically a governance structure which is characterized by distribution of power among the group. So I don't personally...
Empowering your people. They're working with the clients, they should be able to make decisions. And I never understood how these hierarchical structures still can exist and work, that only the upper level management can take serious decisions, and everyone has to report up and down. Yeah,
absolutely. Me neither, actually. Of course, we do a lot of brainstorming together. The senior lawyers give a lot of guidance if needed, but not necessarily. So, there are young colleagues who've been working at us like for 4, 5, 6 years. They have a lot of experience. So it happens in a lot of cases that they can solve a case much better than a very experienced attorney at law who joins us at the age of 45. So why shouldn't then the younger be who are making the decisions here? They
exactly.
have more experience. Yeah. So I never believed in this type of traditional paper-based. Germany is also extremely keen on getting as much university paper.
Oh, yes.
The LLM and MBA.
You named it, yes. Yeah.
Everything in the name of it has to be shown, of course, in LinkedIn. I never understood that either, or I never understood the age-based hierarchy. I've always questioned these.
I employed people who started in my organization, their first job, and I employed people who basically retired from my organization, to the whole bandwidth. And everyone contributed. Yeah. And it's an amazing experience having this breadth of knowledge and different aspects,
Yeah, definitely. Different perspectives. And
exactly.
You can come up with a much better solution.
This was a very interesting conversation. We touched on so many aspects. And I don't know if there's anything else you would like to share with the audience. I think we could talk for hours, but...
Yeah, I have the same feeling as well. Yeah. And I'm super happy that I could be here. Thank you very much for the great invitation. And see, this is also proof of why technology and the 21st century is amazing, because without internet, we would have
never met. Exactly.
Never. Yeah. And just like you said, we still are not in the same countries. And we have a very nice conversation. So I think I try to handle this feeling of we could talk forever. So thank you very much. I'm all good.
Karola is definitely a person to contact if you have any legal challenges or question, because she actually understands your business. Yeah, she understands tech and she speaks your language. So can only highly recommend reaching out to Karola and or any questions around law and tech, because I never met a lawyer who knows what, blockchain may be, but all the other technologies you mentioned, very special. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. And if I may add a little comment here, a secret. We already work with German clients. So we already have clients from Germany and Austria as well. But in some years, we might expand to Berlin officially, entity-wise as well. We'll see.
Awesome. Berlin is the startup hub in Germany. I go to Berlin in 2 weeks, where going to invest into a startup. So we have a notary appointment and where we talk about stakeholder agreements and this kind of thing. And it's a very active place, and there's lots happening in Berlin, and it's definitely the right town in Germany to build a subsidiary when you are focused on this industry.
I really like the German market. As I said, I have a nice emotional connection because of my studies. Mm-hmm. So, yeah,
things work.
Yeah, we see.
For the future and bring what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Karola. And if people want to reach out to you, we will put the links in the show notes, the LinkedIn address, your website, and so on. And I wish you best of luck in your journey in changing the world of law and building the bridge between law and tech, which is very needed in today's time. And best of luck to your journey.